This is the 6th webinar that CCBA is hosting with the support of the ECMC Foundation, Bragg and Associates, and then also today with Tim Harmon and his group. Our goal with these webinars is to provide you with insights and tools to help you develop, expand, and enhance your community college baccalaureate program so that you can better meet the needs of your community. One of the key issues that you all know that is key to the success of baccalaureate programs are your relationships with employers, your local industry partners. Today, Tim Harmon and our panel of guests that are with us are going to be sharing how they create these great relationships, how they nurture these relationships, and how these relationships really contribute to exemplary programs. I'm so delighted with the panel today. I think you're really going to enjoy what they have to say. We know that our employers are instrumental in everything from helping define curriculum, helping to find internships, job placements, and curriculum, and also adjunct faculty. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Tim Harmon. Tim is the president of Workforce Enterprise Services, a consulting firm focused on program design, evaluation, and performance. But really most important, at least to me, is the work that he and his colleague Deb Bragg have done with CCBA on the work on the national inventory, which I think this is the first time we've ever had that. So Tim has really contributed so much to the body of knowledge of community college baccalaureates. Tim, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for everything that you've done and for assembling this fantastic panel. So Tim, take it away.
Thank you, Angela. You're very welcome. And it's a real thrill for me to be involved in this panel today, but also more generally in the work that we've been doing over the past couple, 3 years, at least for me, in helping to understand more about and advance the cause of the baccalaureate degree in community colleges. And so, as Angela was saying, a really important aspect of this work is the involvement of employers. And how do we engage employers in the development of programs and the implementation of programs and the support for students and helping them to, meet their career goals and enter the labor market and be successful. So that's what we're all about here. And employers are a key aspect of that, and how we relate to them is a critical aspect of how we develop and operate good programs. So we have brought together some great folks to help us address this question today. And so I'd like to introduce them to you. So the way just in general, the way we like to do our panel today is I'll introduce each of the panelists for you, and then we're going to start with Green River and talk about their programs, and then we'll segue from that into a discussion of mentors in tech, and then we'll finish with the biotechnology program at MiraCosta. So that's sort of our order of attack today in our panelists. So let me just jump into it, and you're welcome to, if as you have questions that you would like us to pose to the panelists or just get answered, and however we can do it, just please put those in your chat as we go through. And I know that Angela and Shelley will be sort of monitoring that to make sure that we remember to address those questions as much as we can. So we want to make sure there's time for that. So please don't be shy. Let us know what you want to know about, and we'll make sure, because this is for you. So if we can go on to our next slide. So first, we want to start with Ken Hang. Ken's a program director and software development instructor at Green River College. And Green River has a couple information technology programs that they have developed, Bachelors of Applied Science programs, Green River courses in Washington State. And but that's not the only thing. Green River has several Bachelor of Applied Science programs. And so just so you know, they have programs in aeronautical science, applied management, early childhood education, marketing and entrepreneurship, even court reporting. And you know how I know that is because I went to the CCBA website and accessed the inventory database that's there. And so we strongly encourage everyone to do that. If you're looking for someone who's already running a program that's similar to a program that you're thinking about running, I can't think of a better place to go, Angela, than to the CCBA website to check into the inventory. A lot of effort. You know why I'm pushing this a little hard, I guess, because a lot of effort and time went into building this, and we really, really want people to use it because we think it's an excellent tool to, and I'll pick on MiraCosta later, but as far as I know, they only have the one biomanufacturing program, unless they've stood up some additional programs while we haven't been watching. That's entirely possible because lots happening in California, I know. So, but I know that, and Ken, if there's other programs that that you've stood up in the meantime while we haven't been watching, please let us know. But those are the ones that I was aware of by looking at the inventory data. So. So we'll talk to Ken about what's going on at Green River College and their programs, and then after we talk with Ken, I'd like to talk to our next person, which is, next slide, please. Kevin, yes. Kevin is the founder of Mentors in Tech, and many of you may be familiar with Mentors in Tech. And if you're not, you're going to become familiar with it today. It's a fabulous program that involves employers in working with students in work-based instruction and building these mentor relationships to help students make the transition into employment from college to employment. And they've done a lot of really great work in that area. So we're going to talk to Kevin about Mentors in Tech, but also about his perspectives about employer engagement, what works, what doesn't, et cetera. And he even has a pretty cool little video we're going to show you about this sort of employer and student perspective on Mentors in Tech as well. So we'll share with that. And then we're going to end with Dominique. Dominique's an instructor in biotechnology at MiraCosta College. And as I mentioned, MiraCosta has this really cool biotechnology manufacturing program. And we're gonna spend some time asking her questions about the development of that program and the engagement with employers for both, how that program was developed in the first place, but also how it works and the implementation of the program and student and employer engagement and how it works in the biotechnology field. We had also lined up Justin Flowers from Genentech to give us the employer perspective on the biomanufacturing field. But unfortunately, as sometimes happens, Justin emailed me this morning, said he'd lost his voice. So he decided it wouldn't be particularly helppful to be on a panel if he couldn't speak. So I agree with that. So we'll have to catch up with him at some other time, but we appreciate his willingness to help us with that. And we will kind of, ask Dominique to do double duty, maybe to give us her perspective, not just on what's happening at the program level, but also what employers are saying and thinking there at MiraCosta. So that's our intro piece. But so I'd like to turn first to Ken Hang and talk about Green River. And Ken, if you could, maybe just start out by giving us kind of a little bit of a background about the development of the programs there, sort of what the history of those were and how they emerged over time, and sort of what's unique about the program from your perspective, and particularly why the baccalaureate. What's the value of the baccalaureate from the program perspective?
Great, yeah, happy to share. So yeah, I kind of began this journey with the college. I started here at Green River College in 2012, and shortly afterwards, conversations started opening up as baccalaureate degrees were authorized to be offered by community colleges in Washington State. One area we saw as a gap is that the industry has been shifting over the past 10, 20 years. What used to be anyone with skills could get a job became, well, you have to have the skills and you have to have a degree to get the job, and in particular, a bachelor's degree. So the college previously had associate degree programs. And, when I came on board, I was kind of put onto a team to kind of help stand up some of these applied baccalaureate programs to kind of give students that next level of education to access these opportunities in industry. So the program I work in is the Applied Baccalaureate, Bachelor of Applied Science in Software Development. So trying to address an area of huge demand in the Seattle region, wherever we are. As you probably know, there's a big boom here in technology with some of those kind of leading company names that you probably know, household brand names. But where our college is situated, we're about 20-30 miles south of downtown Seattle, and we're close enough where our students want to be participating in this economy, but we're far enough away where we're not exactly first in mind when it comes to some of these companies, when it comes to the recruiting. So our challenge over the past 5 years is to grow this program and kind of grow that relationship with our industry as well, so that our students know where to go next.
So tell me a little bit more about the sort of the connection with employers, because you referenced the fact that they might not be right at the top of your list, in terms of, oh, these are the colleges I need to head over to Green River. So you have a little bit of selling to do, it sounds like, in terms of reaching out to employers and sort of getting them to understand, hey, this is what we're about, and this is the value add that we're bringing to the table. How does that process unfold at Green River? Yeah,
it's an interesting learning journey, as we know that our employers in the region want to, there's demand, and there's also an interest and a desire to kind of diversify the tech workforce as well. So, trying to put together a statement of, a value proposition statement for those employers was step one. So we started there. Step two is, okay, trying to get the word out. That's a hard hill to climb. In a large region with lots of different employers, large and small, and all with different specialty areas, it's really difficult to just blast and broadcast a message where everybody hears it. And on top of that, there's an added layer. Well, we're not the only college in the area as well. So it's building relationships is, as everyone knows here, it's a labor intensive, time intensive endeavor. And another challenge there too is like you build a relationship with someone at a workplace, and people change jobs. So then you have to start over again and, kind of rebuild relationships as we go along. So, one strategy that I was really, looking at, and it really kind of, I credit Kevin with this as well. I met Kevin at an industry event a couple of years ago, and we were talking about this, and, is to maybe, find partners in the ecosystem, find partners in the space that have relationships already, and work together to help share our stories collectively together as a collective voice. I know some of our employers have also kind of provided feedback saying, hey, you're coming to us, but there's 8 other colleges that just had the same conversation with me yesterday. Can we get coordinated somehow? Yeah. So those are some of the challenges we've been facing, and I'm sure some of the folks in the room here are very familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm sure. And another thing that I'm interested in is that, if you were asked to describe sort of your your enrollment population, how many of them are already, when they come to you as new enrollees in your program, how many of them are already employed in the industry, already working in the field in some capacity? At our specific program at our college, very few are actually in the industry. So that's also a particular challenge as well. Not having a connection in the industry, not even knowing what the job is about. It can be a hurdle for students if they don't know what's required or what's needed to kind of get in the door. They will, they often feel like, oh, well, I'm an outsider. I don't belong here. This is not for me. And that's definitely not true. But, if one's life experience doesn't indicate otherwise, why wouldn't one believe that? Sure. And so what are some of the things that, how do you see, what role do you see employers in helping sort of bridge that gap? And what are some of the strategies you may have used to kind of identify and reach out to employers that can help, students understand and feel like, hey, this is for me too? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one key piece for us has been mentorship, connecting students with mentors in industry who actively work in industry, who can provide some of that, advice and perspective, especially with mentors who may have similar life backgrounds to the students as well, who've been on a similar journey. We find that to be quite effective. And,
providing some structure and activity for students to kind of focus on, beyond just the coursework, but, having conversations with their mentors and maybe working together on some aspect of their career, search process, whether it's kind of narrowing down what they want to do, targeting particular segments of the industry or a particular role, and providing exposure to students in that sense. So
Yeah. And that's great. So, I mean, also maybe give me a little bit more information or a little bit more sense of how employers have helped you in the design of your curriculum, development of your program itself, the content, skill content, that sort of thing. How does that, do you have a formalized process? How does that really roll out?
Yeah, I'd say it's a combination of formal and informal. There was a formalized kind of task analysis that occurred at the very beginning. So we were trying to identify with a panel, or actually a large focus group of employers, small and large, what are those skills that an entry-level software developer needs to know how to do to kind of get in the door. So, a lot of the original curriculum design kind of came from that. But of course, the industry evolves and, times change as well. So, we do receive feedback from employers, and for those employees who we do have relationships with, when they, offer some feedback, we definitely take that as a team here and kind of make adjustments as well. So,
right.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to maybe just acknowledge as well is, like, there's the skills that are necessary to be effective at the job. There's also a specific set of skills to actually be able to get in the door. And those may not overlap completely. So, I think over time, we've built much more into our program, whether it's in our classroom work or in our partner work with, Kevin and Mentors in Tech. How do we get students to engage in those skills and to kind of get them through the hiring door?
Give me an example of the kind of thing you're talking about. I think I have a sense of what you mean, but just blow that up a little bit for us in terms of the skills required to sort of get in the door, get the interview, if you will, or
Yeah. So in the tech industry, the resumes that one would prepare for, a technical a recruiter might not be the same as one would, have in a general, sense. So that's one. Or the interview process, it's usually 2 or 3 rounds. One may be a round of technical questions. That's, and another round might be more behavioral questions. So kind of giving students a lay of the land as to how the recruiting process tends to work in the industry that we work in.
There's a question from the audience. Tim, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yeah, there's a question from the audience, and I picked it up and copied it again, but people are asking, first of all, hi, Ken, how are you?
Oh, hi.
How are students who have full-time jobs at, say, Macy's, and now they're going to school for their bachelor's in IT, how do they get internships? How do they get some of this work experience?
Yeah, it's good. Good question.
Yeah, I think that leads right into, the work that we're doing with Kevin right here. But for sure, we know that students who are working full-time or working jobs for survival cannot access a traditional summer internship. It's not really feasible to say, okay, stop your survival work and, leave and move somewhere and go get an internship for 10 weeks and, and don't worry about your family responsibilities. That's just not a realistic thing to ask, right? So I'd say there's 2 ways that we're trying to approach that. The primary way is trying to provide some of this experiential learning opportunity in the classroom. So, some of our curriculum does include kind of project-based learning, finding projects from industry for students to work on. When we first started the program, I was actually going out and actively trying to source those projects and bring them in. That works for, maybe cohort 1, but, when we get to more and more cohorts, it's very difficult to sustain. So, finding a partner like Kevin has been critical for us to kind of, continue to kind of grow and sustain that, to have projects from industry that students can work on. And then I'd say part 2 is also identifying and just kind of really keeping up those relationships and keeping our fingers on the pulse of the industry and what programs are available out there. We do find that, there are some companies and some organizations, nonprofits, and social good organizations as well, that are all trying to help open these doors for students. So if we find opportunities for students, we try to, connect students with those opportunities that maybe a third party is offering to say, hey, there's an apprenticeship here that might be an interesting one for you to investigate, or, maybe there's a an internship program that's being offered remotely, by a specific partner that's trying to recruit, a specific audience.
Right. And Ken, related to that is a question that, have you been able to establish paid work-based learning connected to your programs, and have you advocated for student compensation and achievement buy-in from employers?
Yeah, so I love these questions because it's kind of showing you the evolution of how this has all evolved in our program. So like
it does lead in.
Right, right. So, with these opportunities that students have, we understand that, working for free is also not an option as well. So we've been trying to find paid learning, work-based learning experiences as well. And with the help of our state board of community and technical colleges with a grant who's helped us kind of kickstart this effort, we're partnering with Kevin and Mentors in Tech to, build this program where students actually receive, a stipend for the work they do on the project, in addition to, getting credit in the class that I teach as well. So our hope is that it gives students a little bit of extra capacity so that, if they receive, some pay in association with their work on the project, it's, maybe they can work a little bit less than that other survival job and maybe divert their attention a little bit to the project. Also, I can see it as a big kind of confidence boosting, maybe student credibility boosting opportunity as well. When students are working on an assignment in a class, it might not feel real, but if it's a client in industry and there's, pay associated with it, I think there's a more kind of a genuine experience that the students kind of tend to internalize, at least through my observations. I haven't done a survey or anything. That's just my kind of anecdotal observation.
That's really good. Thanks. Hey, maybe what you do now is let's turn to Kevin and introduce Mentors in Tech, because this really, I think, in many ways is a kind of direct response to some of the questions that have been coming up about how do we really formally connect students to work and make that happen in the real world. So Kevin, I know, you were gracious enough to share a little video with us about the student and employer perspective on Mentors in Tech. Do you have anything you want to say first to kind of cue that up? Because what I was going to do is show that and then have some questions for you.
Yeah, this is sort of not the start. This is sort of like the end result. So we're seeing you, we're showing you the completed thing, and then we're gonna open up the open up the hood and figure, or tell you how the sausage is made, right? So
cool. That's cool. I like that. So
let's
Shelley, let's go ahead and show that if we can, and then we'll unpack it with Kevin, I guess, right?
During the Great Recession and became an administrative professional.
Out of high school, I was really unsure with what it is I wanted to do. I didn't really have any major interests. I instead went to cosmetology school, became a hairstylist, and kind of worked in that industry for about 5 years.
Mentors in Tech is a program that helps overlooked and often non-traditional tech students from small, less well-known, accessible, and affordable colleges launch their tech careers. Our Capstone project pairs student teams with real software engineers that they otherwise would never have access to, and with their guidance and mentoring, build a solution to a real-world engineering problem. We're so thankful to the GitHub CLI and Microsoft accessibility teams for working with our students this spring quarter.
When an opportunity like this comes to show relatively young and experienced people how the world of tech operates, I want to provide that perspective, because of that was, for me, the place where I learned most of the skills that I have now.
Being able to watch how they work, watch how they think, was a huge insight as well.
It was incredibly generous of GitHub and the engineers to spend all that time with us. Like I said, they met with us every week and more so. We had some pair programming sessions, and also they were always willing to reply on Slack. So just the dedication that they put forth was pretty amazing.
The student team was really able to operate pretty independently, and I was just generally impressed with how they would kind of pick up tasks and just go for it on their own.
I find it crazy how much we were able to do, and it really helps moving forward and getting a glimpse of what it actually is like in the real world.
Each of the students, they seem to get up to speed so quickly with ours, with the Go language and with our code, and that really impressed me.
I know my team, and I all felt so grateful, that we got to be a part of this. It felt like something that we never expected we would be able to do. It was pretty amazing experience.
It was honestly a lot of fun for us to sort of invest time and energy ourselves as our team, and then see the students' enthusiasm only increase as a result of that. So it felt like very much a virtuous cycle of the time that we spent investing in giving them feedback was only sort of repaid and amplified in their engagement as they continue to learn and grow.
The more we worked with them, the more excited I got, and I felt very grateful for this chance that many students don't get at all.
We're so proud of the features that they have built that will be going into real shipping products. We look forward to having more Capstone partners who will, with us, help our students discover their unique strengths.
All right, excellent, thanks. I like that. That's a good, gives you a real sense of kind of what students are valuing as well as employers are valuing in this program. So Kevin, tell us, give us a little bit of background on sort of how this happened. How did Mentors in Tech come into existence? And then maybe share with us a little bit about some of the employers that you've worked with, that and particularly any that you are aware of that have worked with students from Green River, and just give us a sense of what they think the value is in all this.
Sure. And so you saw me with the pandemic in the garage buzz haircut, so the hair is kind of grown back now. So great question. In my previous life, I was a software engineer as well as a high school computer science teacher, and I eventually ended up building a program called TEALS inside of Microsoft Philanthropies, where engineers go team teach with classroom teachers, and we're in 30 some odd states, and we partner with well over 1,000 high schools in the US, and people put in millions of hours. And as a part of that, majority of the schools we partner with are Title I schools. And every time I visit a school, our volunteers would say, "Hey, Kevin, so-and-so got into UW, got into CMU." And I'm like, what about the other 26 students that's in AP computer science, right? And we see a lot of them end up to these smaller, less well-known, local, affordable, but also accessible schools, because for a lot of them, that's the only option that they have to pursue higher ed. But at the same time, these schools do not have the reputations of University of Washington, University of Illinois, and they just graduate a smaller set of students as well. Instead of a class of 400 students every year, you get 40, 20, 5. And so the local employers are not aware of the schools. Even, some of them may or may not have heard the school, or maybe they heard the name, they don't actually know where it is, or they may not know they have a computer science program even, because a lot of these computer science programs came out in the last 10, 15, or even 5 years ago. So even locals don't know these programs exist, and sort of just how people have image of community colleges in their mind, they don't associate software engineering or these tech positions with the schools. And you can see there's been white papers released, 8 to 10 years ago from Teachers College in Columbia, as well as Google, and all those white papers urging folks that are looking for tech talent to go to these local schools. And so, but it's really hard to actually do that in practice. So even though large employers that are 5-10 miles away from a lot of these schools we serve in Puget Sound do not recruit or do not have a relationship with these schools. So some of these schools got together and asked me, hey, you built a bridge between sort of tech and high schools. Can you build one for us as well? And so that's what we built. So we have 3 components that we think that with that, our students have the best wraparound career services that's comparable to any of the big schools. So that's where we try to get to, right? So one is mentoring. If you go to Stanford and you say, oh, I want a mentor, there's like 7 raised hands, and they're all very high-powered people, have very famous companies, and you have your pick of the litter. It's very different at a school where the oldest alumni from your program might have been 4 or 5 years ago. and you know, they're and it's very, you know, they may not have an alumni office, you know, they're not raising millions of dollars into, you know, to fund chairs and stuff like that. So it's just a very different situation. So we're like, you know what, let's get people, let's tell the story of these students that are changing their own lives, that are career changers, parents, veterans. It's not your typical set of students that most people would think that goes to these schools. Let's tell the stories of these students and what they need to the wider tech community and say, can you work with us, put in time and work with our students in this mentoring program? So we built that up, and the response from the you know, industry folks have been tremendous. That's something they're looking for, because a lot of them do graduate from these more well-known schools, and they realize they're mentoring for their own students. Sometimes it's marginal. Hey, you know, I got 4 offers, and you're dissecting the offers and say, okay, this gives you a little bit of money, or this position's a little bit different. Here's your career trajectory. Versus our students, where it's you're stacking shelves at Safeway, or you're getting into, it's a completely different chain. So the impact we realize our mentors put in is a much different kind of impact, and not a type of impact they would have had if they were mentoring their alma mater as well. So we ended up building this program, not just for one school, for a consortium of 6 schools together, because we realized they all had these common needs. And it doesn't make sense for them to build it individually, especially as schools don't, you know, folks don't have either the bandwidth or the capacity or the expertise to build something for like 20 students, right? But if we combine everyone together, we can build something for 200 students together. So we're the Costco of combining all of these students, you know, small program here. Together we have a little bit of, you know, it's a lot more compelling for us to go tell that story together. So one part is the mentoring program. Each student gets 2 mentors. We recruit, train, interview all of the mentors, and we match them up with the students that can enrolls in the program, and they each get 2 mentors. The mentors are average something like 14 years of industry experience. So we tend to have older mentors, which is good, because that's literally who their future managers or even skip level managers would be. So even just getting them comfortable talking to people is a huge deal. And so we have I hate to call it curriculum, but it's, you know, we have discussion topic, detailed discussion topics for them to talk about. So it's not like, hey, how's it going? Good. You want to talk about anything? Oh, I don't know. And then, they meet each one of their mentors an hour a month with a topic. So that's 2 different mentors. We want them to have different perspectives, hear different things, even on the same topic. We have a panel once a month. You know, we either hear from people who work in HR and read their actual resumes and say, we read it for 20 seconds and here's the things we really look for. And so just kind of behind the scenes of how the entire process works. And so that's our mentoring program. And the other part, the other thing we do is the Capstone, which is what you saw. I think there's some questions about this, like, these students have full-time jobs. We've seen students get offers for summer internships, but they can't do it because they have family obligations. They have full, you know, pretty serious part-time jobs they can't give up, even though we all know and we tell them, do it, because your trajectory next year will be completely different. But they just can't. And so we're like, well, Ken, you have this class, right? This Capstone class. Let me see, I can get people to do this during the school year with you, right? And so we end up saying, okay, your students have this amount of time. I can get some employers to do this and sort of give them an internship-ish project. We'll provide coaches. Ken provides the in-class time. The employers provides a mentor. Mentors in Tech provides a coach for the student team. And so we built this program together where the students get, let's call it an internship-like experience, and get paid a stipend and work on real world projects. Even though it's not exactly as an internship project, we try to simulate or emulate as much as we can given our constraints. And so we do that for multiple cohorts. We're in our third set of cohorts, and we have about 6 companies working with about 24 students this quarter. And lastly, we also do some talent services for companies. So to get access, they have access to our pool of students, and we tell them how to talk to our students and get them hopefully directly to an interview and do a very low stress way of meeting these people that, our students are just not familiar with the process and kind of questions asked. Sorry, talked a long time, but want this to be as interactive as possible in terms of questions. And
no, that's great. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna move along then to Dominique, and then we'll come back with questions because I know there'll be some questions about all of this. But just to finish out the panel questions, Dominique, tell us about MiraCosta. Tell us about biomanufacturing. Tell us about how how you got involved in it and how the program started. Whatever. Just tell us your story a little bit, and then I'd like to ask you some questions too about how you work with employers and which employers and how that happened.
Perfect. Thank you, Tim. So like Tim mentioned, I'm at MiraCosta College in San Diego County. We have a bachelor's degree program in biomanufacturing, which essentially is an additional 2 years added on after the students complete their lower division coursework in our biotechnology department. This program first started in fall 2017, and we had our first graduating class in spring 2019 with 22 graduating students. It was part of a pilot program that the state ran to allow community colleges to begin to offer some bachelor's degree programs. And I'm happy to say that the program has now recently been made permanent. It is no longer a pilot program, so we are here to stay, and you'll be seeing more bachelor's degree programs at community colleges in California. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
In the 2 years of the program, we focus on all of the topics that students would need to be familiar with going into the biomanufacturing industry. So things like bioprocessing, upstream and downstream, design of experiments, automation, quality assurance, regulatory affairs. They even get Six Sigma and Lean training, and they get a certificate after completing the courses and taking an exam there. And then we have capstone seminars that we really rely heavily on our industry connections for, and we are frequently bringing in guest speakers and having them talk about some of their work in the industry directly to the students. Tim, I don't know, in terms of a general overview, I can keep going, but let me know if you want anything more.
No, go ahead. Yeah, no, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So essentially the goal of starting this bachelor's degree program was to meet the demand for more qualified STEM workers in the region. San Diego is a major biotech hub, and it was found that we just didn't have enough incoming workers. And then additionally, to reach some underserved students. Since we are a community college, a lot of our students are from underserved populations. And in our first graduating class, more than 85% of these students were from an underserved population, such as students of color, first gen, or low income. And so we've been able to reach these students and see really successful outcomes in them getting jobs in the industry. And as you can probably guess, based on the theme of this panel, a lot of that has been because of the work that we do with our industry contacts. So we have lots and lots of connections in the industry, and we have achieved these by going out to conferences, meeting people, making connections and networking. We've worked with some of the larger organizations in the area, such as Biocom and the San Diego EDC. Biocom's goal is to increase life sciences industry in the area, and so we've worked with them to get connected to employers. And then the San Diego Economic Development Corporation helps to strengthen industry in the region as well, and so they also have helped us to get connected with local employers. And recently, they've also allowed us to start an internship program for our students and students from other local colleges with paid internships where they will connect our students to local employers. So that's been really helpful as well. In terms of how we've gotten, how we've maintained these connections, we have annual advisory board meetings where we bring in our industry contacts and hear from them about what they want to see in our curriculum. Oftentimes, we work with them to make sure that our curriculum is meeting their goals, and then also bringing them in to help design that curriculum and design those projects. We've been really lucky that we've had a lot of employers in the area who are really excited about getting involved and helping to strengthen this curriculum. And Justin, who was not able to be here today, he's from Genentech, and he's been one of the employers who's been extremely helpful in this. He's been an advisory board member. He's helped to give feedback about our curriculum. He's helped with mock interviews for the students and as a mentor for our students as well. So that's a bit of an overview of how we've developed this program and what is going on with our connections from the industry. Tim, is there anything, would you like me to keep going, or is there anything specific we want to touch on?
Yeah, let me ask you just a sort of a follow-up question that I'm going to pose this to Ken as well. It is, based on what you've learned and you're working with employers over the years with your program, if you were going to start over again, or if you were going to apply any lessons for that you've learned, what do you think? What would be your takeaways as to how could we strengthen this? How could we move more quickly to get more quickly to where we ended up with our employer relationships? What would you do? Would you do anything differently, or do you feel like we kind of did the things we needed to do, and we're not sure we would do anything different?
I guess I can jump in. So I was somewhat lucky in that the program was pretty much set up and running by the time I came in. I started in fall 2018. The program had already been going on for a year, and a lot of these employee partnerships had already been developed. But what I would say is in terms of doing things differently, I think one of the major things that has been helpful for us has been going out and connecting with companies in the area. Before the pandemic, we were able to go and do site visits at many different companies. And, over the course of my first year at MiraCosta, I can't even remember how many site visits we did, but we met with so many different people. We got to meet with everyone on the team, including HR, who would be sending us job postings later on. And not that we could do it differently, because we had some restrictions with what we could do due to the pandemic, but I would say if things had worked out differently, I think we would have been doing a lot more in-person on-site tours of companies, making connections that way. And I think that that's something that we really have planned now that we are starting to return to in-person.
For sure. It sounds like it. Ken, let me ask you that similar question. Based on what you've learned over the years, what would you do differently, or what would you emphasize differently perhaps than what you've done?
Sure. I think the strategy that that we arrived at is kind of key here. When I first started, new to teaching, new to the space, new to college, I was trying to build everything by myself. But there's only one of me, and maybe just a couple teammates here, and it's a heavy lift to try to build that from scratch. So I think we realized that it has to be we have to kind of go out and kind of seek our ecosystem of partners, and that's kind of the strategy here, is that knowing that we can't do it ourselves. Yes, we'll always have those conversations with our industry contacts that we have, but to really kind of get this to be scalable and, more importantly, sustainable. That's my number one kind of risk area. Is we have to have partnerships in our ecosystem. And you can sort of see here today my partnership with Kevin. It's not it's a true, genuine partnership where I think I understand where Kevin and his organization are, and he understands where our students are and what our needs are as well. And we've kind of evolved that partnership over time as well through a process of learning. So I think that's like my kind of key takeaway here is, like, if I had to go back and tell myself in 2012, 2013, it's like you can't do it alone. It's just too much of a lift to try to do it. So we need to find people to work with, and also our surrounding colleges as well. I know that's also can be very helpful too. We have kind of equivalent or peer programs across the region, and getting in touch with them, and also kind of connecting as a collective as well has also been quite helpful in that sense, going to industry with a more unified voice.
No, that's real. That's really cool. Hey, so before we turn to participant questions, and I hope there are going to be some, but let me just ask Kevin a little bit. Hopefully this isn't too out of left field, Kevin, but if I'm running a program or developing, or I have an existing BAS program in a community college, and I'd like to replicate something along the lines of what you've done, mentors in fill in the blank. You know, it doesn't, maybe it's not tech, maybe it's mentors and something else, right? What would you say to someone like that? Or you know, what would be your advice to someone who wants to try to do something like what you've done, perhaps in a different occupational area?
It's not as easy as it looks. That video there's like a year and a half of work before that video happened, right? So,
yeah, right.
So it's not all rainbows and unicorns, but but I think one thing is pragmatic. Kind of try to meet both the students and the companies, or I guess future employers, where they are, and be pragmatic of what they're looking at, where your students are. So, you know, for example, you know, we present our students in a way that we're not saying, oh yeah, our students are, you know, like UW students, right? Yeah. That's the number 5 ranked, you know, CS program in the country, right? And we know they're not. They're just totally different people because of life circumstances, academic, you know, where they were in high school, all sorts of life circumstances. So we don't, you know, I think there was, you know, folks like, well, our 4-year degree is the same. It's like, yes, the topics are the same, but, you know, when people do the interviews, they'll be able to tell the difference. There's definitely students who, you know, we have students who are ready to go to Microsoft, Amazon, and all those places, and we have them. Those, we help them cross that last hurdle. But there's also other students where that gap is bigger, and it's our job to help them get their foot in the door. So different expectations. So we're very pragmatic with employers we talk to and say, hey, look, you know, these are students with different experiences, and we highlight their strengths that students at UW may not have, right? We have a lot more veterans, we have parents, we have people who are formerly caterers, and we translate what these caterers, if you're catering a wedding, things are happening. It's on this day for X, you know, amount of guests and stuff. So how do we translate that sort of experience that a new 22-year-old may not have, new grad 22-year-old may not have, but they have, but it's in project management? Or we have folks that are super humble. You know, they had toured in Afghanistan and in Iraq and did NGO work in Syria. And they're too humble to really talk about it and say, well, I'm now going to get a real job in tech. I'm like, no, what you have, what you've done, but how can we bring that, you know, I'm sure you're cool under pressure, right? You're all of these other qualities. And so we bring these kind of unique strengths of our students that people in tech don't think about, or they don't immediately think about it or make that leap to. And we make that explicit with the employers that we talk to. Wouldn't you like to have people like this with a technical background?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
versus like, here's all the technical stuff they come with, and we put that first. We say, hey, here's the people we got. When you like, and you know, they have roles that are tech-enabled roles that would totally work as well. So you know, we just had to think of a different way of presenting those students and figure out how to talk to employers and see them for where they are and kind of what positions they have. That's great.
Thank you. Wow, I love your enthusiasm. That's fantastic. So let's turn to, if we have questions from participants. I don't know if you've had a chance to put those in. And here is, let's see. So yeah, that's a comment from Becky Wood. I truly appreciate the strengths-based approach to honoring and highlighting our community college students' lived experiences. Yeah, I see that reflected in all of our panelists today. And if I'm not mistaken, Angela, I think one of our CCBA scholarship award winners was from MiraCosta, is that right? Or Solano, the biomanufacturing program, correct?
Esther.
Yes, it was Esther.
Yeah, and she was doing nothing like that, as I recall, before she entered your program. So it's a pretty good example of the kind of thing that we're doing with these programs.
Yeah, she was an excellent student, and she's been really successful in the industry now. We're just so proud of her. Thank you for honoring her.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was.
Everyone else, she was at our conference as a CCBA scholar. She really conducted herself very, very well. And she told the group that she even got turned down for a job at Starbucks as a barista because she had no experience whatsoever. And so through your internship program, she was able to get a job and then another job. And when she was at the conference, she talked about how that job was so, had such a good career sustaining wage. She was driving the next day to her brand new home. So it was really wonderful.
It's amazing. Yes, she had an amazing story, and she's an amazing student.
Yeah, she is. And here's a question from Miguel Ramos to Kevin, is really to all panelists. Is there a formal process by which you identify students that may need that coaching on how to sell their strengths? I guess more generally, how do students find their way into the programs, into the Mentors in Tech?
Ken, you want to start about, you want to talk about your part, and then I'll talk about how we do training and stuff on our side and set expectations.
Yeah, so an unscalable solution, but a good one is, as faculty in the program, we get to know each of our students one-on-one, and we get to have those conversations and work with them to kind of help identify those strengths that they do have and help translate them. But we need help. And that's where Kevin's organization really, really comes in to kind of help, help students, hear a second voice and also have more resources just than me and my peers here in the faculty team.
So the students know, ultimately it's, we built this program for the students, but it is ultimately up to the students to take advantage of all the things that we have built. And so we do set expectations for the students and say, hey, you got to have 4 hours a month to be a part of the mentoring program. And here's all the stuff you need to do. You need to write a reflection. Ken, I think, takes that part of that for a grade. And so we lay out what everyone has put in. And if the students do meet the expectations, the outcomes are really, really good. So we do share some of the hiring data with them. We talk about who our mentors are. And so that's kind of the thing. A lot of students will just be like, oh, wow, I don't know anybody in tech. And all of a sudden you have 2 people already. And so it's a big draw for them in terms of just what we offer at the end of the day.
Okay, fantastic. So we have a question from Stephen Danver to Ken. In other discussions with many here today, we've been talking about the issues surrounding internships practica as an equity question. Ken, I believe you mentioned using grant funding to mitigate the unpaid nature of internships. Can you say more about that?
Sure. I'd say the grant that we received from our state board was not to actually fund the student work. It was actually to help invest in this partnership and to help build the infrastructure, help Kevin and his organization build the infrastructure so that the companies that want to participate actually pay the students. That's where we want to go in the long haul. So, I'm sure Kevin can speak a little bit more on his end about it, but we have seen other colleges, other universities in the 4-year space, charge employers a fee to participate and bring their projects into the class. I know that that's not something we can just jump out and immediately do as a smaller institution with less name. But Kevin, I don't know if you feel comfortable kind of maybe commenting on that and kind of how you approach employers.
Sure. I think this is, really appreciate the grant funding. After we did a couple of pilots, we really appreciate the grant funding from SBCTC, who I think someone's here from there. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it, as well as Career Connect Washington to help us scale this both organizationally, but also programmatically, as well as wraparound services. So it's, with that funding, we can actually go dig a little bit deeper into figuring out what kind of program resonates with employers to do this, right? Because we're asking them to take a leap of faith as well to students they've never met, to a school they've, in all practical purposes, have never heard of. And they don't know what the computer science program does or doesn't do, right? And students from backgrounds they're not familiar with, that they didn't have themselves. And so we do have, that's the minimum thing we have the employers do, is that they pay the students a stipend. Okay. That is the bare minimum. And we're trying to, through the grant, we're trying to figure out, okay, what kind of wraparound services do I need, right? Like, how long does it take us to recruit a company, right? What kind of marketing do we need to do? Do we need to spend more marketing dollars? Do we, we currently have some coaches that work with these students on how to, build a meeting agenda, or like how to communicate and present things in an engineering way. And so how do we do this? And I think the end goal is to figure out a way we can do this sustainably, well,
Yep.
and at scale for the long term.
And at scale, right. Hey, before we're going, I'd like to slide that question over to Dominique as well, because I know you have internships and work-based features in your program. How does that happen? How is that paid for? How does that work?
Yeah, so in terms of the work and internships that the students are doing, it can really vary. We don't require students to work or do internships. However, we find that a lot of our students are very successful in getting jobs or internships while they're in our program. Right now, I would say at least half of our students are, employed full-time in the biotech field, just from the experience that they have in our lower division courses, and then entering into the upper division courses as well. And we do partner as well with some larger organizations, such as I mentioned the San Diego Economic Development Corporation earlier. They have helped us to connect with some local companies, and through them, they have a program where students can apply for internships, and then they're matched up with local companies, it's a brand new program for this year that MiraCosta is going to be participating in. So we expect to see some really good outcomes there. But we are constantly making connections in the industry and having our connections send us job postings and internship postings, and we will send them out broadly to our students, but we will also, if requested, we can help them to select which students may be the best fit for those positions. So again, it's nothing that's required, and some students are doing this on a volunteer basis, but I would say the majority of our students are actually getting paid for their work and internships. And it's something that the companies are valuing their time for and are willing to provide that funding to them.
Excellent. Thank you, Dominique. We're running up on our time here, Angela, so I don't want to go over unless you give me permission to do so. We did have one last question that I could shoot to Ken.
Do it.
Okay, so Ken, you were invited to talk a little bit more about your App Connect consortium and how it works, how you've built that thing. So
yeah, so it's been almost 4 or 5 years now, but we in that same spirit of we can't do it alone, we were able to find my faculty counterparts at other institutions in applied baccalaureate or community college baccalaureate programs. And as someone mentioned earlier, we can tell a better story as a collective and working together in this ecosystem. So instead of saying, hey, we've got 40 graduates here at Green River per year, 40 here plus 40 at North Seattle College plus another 40 at Cascadia College and so on, we can then tell a collective story of, oh, we've got 250 graduates getting ready to go to industry in June, and to an industry partner who's limited time and resources, that may make for a more compelling value proposition to kind of engage in a conversation.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks to all of our panelists today. Every time, Angela, every time I take the lid off and look inside one of these programs, I always learn something that I didn't know, and I always am impressed by the quality of what I'm seeing here and how we're trying to make things better for students all over the country. So I'll turn it back to you, and you have a little promo.
Italians, we're always over the top with our enthusiasm and stuff. That I'm listening to you all, and I'm so excited and honored about what you all are doing. It's just incredible. And I don't know if you know this, but Annika is here, and she's also one of MiraCosta's students. Annika, can you say hi? So she was in your biotech program and now is in the master's program at UC San Diego. Annika,
yes, that's correct.
Hi, yeah, I'm at UCSD now.
Great job. This is just wonderful.
One of our very talented students. Thanks for being here, Annika.
Thanks, Dr. Ngata.
It probably has something to do with the faculty and your industry partnerships, right, Dominique?
I think so.
I think so too. Well, this has just been a great webinar today. Tim, thank you for your leadership on this. It was really wonderful. And, you
No,
know, at
you're welcome.
CCBs, we're making the promise that, you know, career sustaining wages and,
Yep.
you know, entry into the middle class and above, but we have to prove it, and we have to make good on that promise. Otherwise, you know, what are we doing? And you all are proving that this can happen. And I love, Kevin, what you were talking about, that students in these smaller programs really don't have the same opportunities that students in more well-known programs do, and what you all are doing, faculty and Kevin, and making those opportunities available to them. I've heard of some programs where they have the students go to the chamber meetings just so they can get used to networking and dressing up, you know, the way that professionals in different industries do. So I think this has been really terrific. And I have to give a shout out to Ken Hang, because everybody who will listen to me, I tell them about Ken's great programs. And I know, Kevin, you have that, Ken, you have that newsletter that goes out, that if you're not subscribed to it, you should get subscribed to it, because he's really promoting his students all the time, really doing a wonderful job. And Dominique, your students, between Esther and Annika, I mean, you're not just changing those students' lives, you know, you're changing like 3 generations down the road.
Thank you so much. We feel so lucky. We have an amazing student population, and I feel lucky to be able to be their instructor.
I feel lucky just to listen to you. So that's great. And Kevin, what you've done is, you know, I wrote on the chat to you that I think that you are a real hero. So congratulations to you. Also, Tim, I know I'd be remiss if I didn't say, make sure you come to our next webinar. That is going to focus on, you know, kind of a pull together of everything we've been doing with the ECMC grant. That's just really been fantastic. And then if you know me, you know I'm also going to push our conference, Palm Springs this year. We have got all 3 keynotes secured, if you can believe that. I think that this conference could be as good as this webinar today. So thank you all for being here, and check out our website. Let us know if you've got questions and ideas of how we can be better. We can be a better value for you. But thank each and every one of you for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. You're all just awesome people. Thank you.